If you're thinking about moving to Southeast Asia, I get it. There's cheap rent, there's street food, there's beaches, there's everything you could want. But here's the hard truth. Moving here without knowing what you're up against is a fast track to frustration. Most people underestimate culture shock, bureaucracy, language barriers, and all the little things that add up over time. This isn't to scare you off. It's about saving you months of wasted time, stress, and money. I've lived in multiple cities across Southeast Asia, and I'm here to tell you the good and the ugly. I want to tell you the things you really need to know before packing your bags. The number one mistake I see: believing that just because it's cheap, that makes it easy to live here. Your rent might be a third of what you're paying back home, but you pay in other ways, like battling visas, sweating through power outages, and trying to describe that little plumbing issue you have to a landlord that doesn't speak English. Even grocery shopping can feel like an expedition the first 100 times you do it. If you arrive thinking every single day is going to be paradise, you're going to burn out quickly. The people who actually thrive here aren't the ones who chase paradise. They're the ones that show up with a plan and they embrace the chaos. Let's start with the boring but unavoidable: visas. Everyone dreams about living here forever, but immigration doesn't care about your dream. Most countries are only giving you 30 to 90 days on arrival these days. After that, you're looking at endless visa runs, endless headaches, or you can try to get on a student, business, or retirement visa. This isn't impossible, but it takes some planning. If you wait, you will pay, literally. I've seen people overstay thinking they can charm their way out. Newsflash, they couldn't. Immigration, they don't care about your sob story. If you don't want fines, bans, or deportations, you need to have a plan before you land. And then there is healthcare. This isn't Instagram. Yes, there are good clinics in the big cities, or there's smaller clinics in smaller cities. The second you need something even a little complicated, you should expect to hop on a bus or hop on a plane. Private care is a solid option, but long-term or some serious treatment can get expensive. Public care, it's really a mixed bag. The worst plan you can have is "I'll figure it out when I get there." A cheap move becomes a very expensive move when you're staring at a hospital bill in a foreign language. Now let's talk money. Asia can be cheap, don't get me wrong. You'll see people bragging about living on $500 a month, or even less in some cases. But here's the catch: that only works if you already have a reliable income source. This could be a job, this could be Social Security, or anything else. But no, teaching English under the table or freelancing on your tourist visa is not going to work long term. It's honestly gambling. I've met people who did this stuff, they did it for years, coasting by, and then there's others who were slapped with fines or deportation in their first 6 months. My advice: don't come to Asia broke. Have income streams, have some sort of savings. Asia's affordable, but only if you're not stressing about where rent is coming from every month. The next part is on language barriers. English is not everywhere. In expat neighborhoods, of course, you'll be fine. But step outside your little bubble and soon you'll be playing charades. There'll be taxi drivers, there's doctors, or even the local food stall. Don't expect them to just automatically switch to English. Apps like Google Translate help, but they don't replace good old patience. The people who adjust the fastest are the ones that stay humble and they learn a few words in the local language. Trust me, smiling and trying a couple words with a street vendor is going to get you a long way. Then there's culture shock. It's not just the food or the language that you need to get used to. It's the small daily stuff that grinds you down over time. Traffic that ignores rules, people cutting in line, people spitting on the ground, getting hustled by that local street vendor. If you show up expecting everything to work exactly like home, you're in for a rough ride. The secret: accept that different doesn't necessarily mean wrong. I see people all the time that can't get this through their head, and eventually they just burn out and they just go home. Others laugh it off, they adapt, and they actually enjoy the ride. Which one you'll be comes down to just having the right mindset when you show up. Another thing people don't really talk about is loneliness. Moving abroad doesn't automatically mean you'll be included in that expat group. Don't get me wrong. You'll meet lots of people in hostels or that expat bar, but if you don't make the effort, it's easy to live in a city of millions of people and feel completely alone. Some people underestimate this, and cheap living starts to feel like empty living. If you want to last, you have to put yourself out there. Join groups, say yes to meetups, and actually build your own little network out here. The next part is housing surprises. Airbnb makes this look too easy sometimes. Photos can often be misleading. You'll find that beautiful listing, but when you get there, there's leaky pipes, there's cockroach neighbors, and you can hear your other neighbors brushing their teeth through the wall. The first time you rent abroad, there could be some surprises. It's just like anywhere. Go over the details. Just because it's at a cheap price doesn't mean it's some kind of special deal. A little extra effort up front saves you weeks and weeks of regret. Next, transport here probably isn't what you're used to. Public transport could be little to non-existent. Scooters may look cheap up front, but the real bill comes when you're in the hospital because you've never ridden one, especially in this kind of traffic. What looks like that short little ride can turn into an hour-long traffic crawl. If convenience is a big option for you, make sure you pick the right city and make sure you stay in the right place. The next section is obvious. It's the one I constantly get comments about. It is the weather. Everyone loves tropical weather when they're on vacation, but this is no longer a vacation weather. The heat and humidity are relentless sometimes. Rainy season, it hits like a wall. The streets flood, you can't ride your motorbike, and occasionally the power even goes out. Air conditioning becomes more about survival. And then there's the little things, like drying clothes, commuting to your favorite coffee shop in the rain, or even just existing outside in April. They become bigger things than you ever expected. If you're picturing a permanent summer vacation, think again. As far as tech goes, yes, Wi-Fi is cheap, but no, it's not always reliable. In the cities, you'll be fine. Apartments can have dead zones, but in the rural areas, it is definitely patchy. If you plan on remote work, don't assume. Test before you rent anything long term. Ask about the internet before you sign any sort of lease. And worst comes to worst, keep a backup SIM card at all costs. And don't believe every fast and reliable Wi-Fi promise you'll see in the listings. The digital nomad fantasy collapses very quickly if you cannot upload a file that you need to on your Wi-Fi. The next part is banking. Banking here can feel like a little bit of a time machine. Opening an account is mostly going to require residency. ATMs exist, but those international withdrawal fees can add up very quickly. Credit cards aren't widely accepted, so sometimes you're paying in cash at a corner store down the road. And exchange rates, they swing. If you don't pay attention, you could be burning money. Overall, in my experience, Southeast Asia is pretty safe. I've never personally felt in danger. But scams can also be part of the background noise. There's taxi drivers that overcharge, there's fake rentals, there's dodgy little tour operators, or the classic friend who needs a little bit of money for a family emergency. We've all heard that story. None of it is violent, but it's just annoying sometimes, and in the end, it all will add up. The best defense? Common sense and a little bit of skepticism. If a deal feels too good to be true, well, it probably is. At the end of the day, living abroad is 90% a mindset shift. The difference between loving and hating a place isn't going to depend on the rent prices or even how pretty the beach is. It's how you handle the daily friction that comes up. If you expect every day to be like a vacation, you're going to be sorely disappointed. But if you expect inconveniences, you laugh at the chaos, and you plan ahead for the little boring things like visas and healthcare, you'll thoroughly enjoy it. The people who thrive aren't the ones with the most money or the nicest apartment. They're the ones who build routine, they make friends, and they roll with the differences instead of fighting at them at every single step. So before you buy that one-way ticket, know what's coming your way. Visas, housing, transport, healthcare, these aren't optional. They're daily realities. Cheap living to me is just a bonus. It's not a guarantee of comfort. If you plan carefully, you understand the quirks, and you have the right mindset, Southeast Asia can be one of the most rewarding experiences you have in your life. But if you underestimate the friction, you'll get burned out, you'll pack your bags, and you'll move on home. Talking about preparation isn't a glamorous topic, but it's what makes this lifestyle sustainable long term. If you take one thing away from this, it's this. Don't romanticize the move. Know what you're signing up for. Embrace the culture shock, plan for the endless paperwork, and don't expect a cheaper version of what you already have at home. If you do all that, your first months abroad won't be a total nightmare. They'll be the start of an adventure that is sustainable long term.